Welcome to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. You can join and even be a guest on the live every Sunday and Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on TikTok by following the link in the description. If you're not on TikTok, but have a personal encounter you'd like to share, you can contact me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Tonight's episode features a recent paranormal encounter that I had with my wife while driving. Alan and Chris from Nevermore Hollows joined the live to give their insight into the terrifying creature that I witnessed. It's all coming up after this brief message.
Hello, I am Lafayette Faust, host of the Nevermore Hollows podcast. If you're a fan of horror stories, you will love Nevermore Hollows. It's a collection of stories about a creepy town filled with quirky characters and horrifying monsters. If you're not sure where to begin, let me suggest the episode titled Psycho Juju. I guarantee it's like no horror story you've ever heard. So, I invite you to sit back, turn on a light, and prepare yourself as you listen to us on your favorite podcast platform.
All right, welcome to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. Tonight, it's going to be a little different. Waiting on a few more people to join, but we have some announcements to make. I finally hit 50 subscribers on YouTube. So within the next couple of days, I'm going to play around with the live on there. See what I can do on there. I've never gone live on YouTube. So be looking for that once I figure that whole system out. It took me long enough to figure this one out. Yeah. Welcome in, Gordon. Waiting on Matthew to come in. He's probably still celebrating Steelers win. You see Matthew in here yet? So like I said in my teaser, let's go ahead and do the announcement here. If you watched my promo video, you saw that we're going to discuss a very recent encounter that I had. My wife asked me one time if I ever get nervous before I start one of these lives. And that answer is normally no. But tonight's a little different. I can honestly say I'm a little nervous tonight because of what happened last night. Last night, not quite, Laura. Last night, Becca and I were driving home. We had been Christmas shopping all day, and it was about 7 o'clock at night. And as most of you know, I live in Indiana. I'm not going to give out specifics on what roads or anything, but we were driving down a state route, and Becca was on her phone, probably talking to other guys.
I was ordering groceries on Walmart.
Okay, she was ordering groceries on Walmart, but I have to be myself, or I'm not going to get through this. So if I make little jokes, just bear with me. As we're traveling down the road, there's another car that's about 200 yards. It's kind of hard to tell at night, but I would estimate about 200 yards in front of me. If you're from a rural area, you know that this time of year, deer are on the move. It's deer season here. So you're always looking for eye shine. You're looking for other cues, such as the car in front of me, to see if they hit the brakes or swerve or anything like that. And none of that happened. I'm watching the car in front of me. It's traveling. We're doing about 60 mile an hour. And in the headlights, um, I didn't realize how hard this was going to be. Um, I saw something. It was, there was, the headlights on our vehicle were pretty bright. They're aftermarket, they're LED, so they're pretty bright. Um, I'm looking at the road, and 1 minute the road's clear, and then I don't want to I don't want to say something appeared. I don't want to say I don't know if it materialized or what happened, but there was something in the road on the center line, and at first, I can't tell what it is. Um, as we got a little closer, I realized that it it looked like the upper body of a man. It was it was the color of like cigarette ash, and it looked like it was crawling using like its knuckles, like it was on its fists. And at first it was facing the wrong direction on the road, but it was kind of at a 45-degree angle from the lane I was in. And it turned, and it when it looked at me, it had no clothes on. Its arms were kind of muscular. The the um, the chest was proportional. I mean, it looked kind of like a man, but it had no clothes. I said I'm in Indiana right now, so it was 20 degrees last night. Um, when it turned and looked at me, it didn't have any hair on it. Um, all it had was like eye sockets, no eyes. There was no eye shine, and it turned as we got closer. It was like time slowed down. I know it was probably about maybe 50 yards away when it turned to look at me. And then as I got on top of it, it like lunged at the car, came into, like it was in the center on like the dotted lines. And it like lunged at the car. So I swerved, and The first thing I asked Becca, I'm like, did you see that? And she was on her phone, so she didn't look up until I swerved. But he said when I went by, it looked like it lunged at me. I got home. I contacted Alan from Nevermore Hollows, and he and Chris called me last night, and they asked me some questions. And one of the questions was, "Did you hit it?" And I don't remember hearing anything. Like, I would have known, if you're from the country, you've hit animals before. I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel anything. So after our conversation, I went out and looked, and they're still there. I've sent the pictures to Alan, Chris, and Matthew from Drunken Cryptids. There's 4 what looks like fingers, like it swiped down the side of the car, and the it's huge. Like, it's bigger than my hands from fingertip to fingertip. I measured it, and I can't even stretch my fingers that far. So yeah, that's what happened to me last night. I know I don't think it was Dogman. Um, Honestly, the closest thing that I could find that looked like what I saw was a rake, but it was beefier. It was more muscular than the descriptions I've seen of what a rake is. Um, I think I'm gonna bring Alan and Chris in right now. This will load. And I apologize. This are you guys there?
Yay.
Yes.
Hey, man, I'm here.
All right. So after I talked to you guys last night, um, like, that I went out and I looked at the vehicle. Um, the I started looking up what I thought, what rakes look like, because I've never seen one. I've seen pictures here and there, and I missed what Son said, but oh, Jesus. Anyway, the closest I could see, there was one picture of a rake, but all the ones that I saw had a mouth and nose. I want you guys to kind of put your 2 cents in on what you think, Alan.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I've been thinking about it a lot, and there's so many things that are out there that we do know about, but there's also so many things that we don't know about that maybe somebody has seen before and never shared, and it's something that, for all intents and purposes, can be completely new to the culture in the broad spectrum. But it could be that you've seen something it's either, in my opinion, it's either a spirit or it's either some sort of a ghoul, because what you're describing the face to look like is very ghoulish, though the body, most ghouls are emaciated. But I feel that, considering that when we talked last night, I'd asked you, are there any cemeteries there? And yes, when you sent me the map, there's cemeteries all around that road that you were on. What
There,
I'm thinking is that it was some sort of spirit that you saw.
and like I said, it kind of looked like, I don't know if I've said it in this live. It looked like it was coming out of the ground. It did, like, it was either that or I just couldn't see the lower body by the way the upper body was positioned. But yeah, there, when I went back and looked at the map where it happened, there's literally a cemetery right next to the road right there.
Right. And, the fact that it looked to you like, it was coming up out of the ground. I was an investigator for a long time in my life, and we've all talked about this before. You got to get the things down because, one, you're not going to remember things accurately in the heat of that moment, but you can still get things down and kind of work through it and get close to what you actually saw. So the fact that you're not sure if it was coming out of the ground or dragging part of its body, to me, considering what we talked about last night, I think it was probably coming up out of the ground. That's why I think it was some sort of spirit entity that may or may not be able to manifest more solidly. But, well, obviously it did, because it swiped at your car and left evidence of it. But I'll say this, because I want to steal some of Chris's thunder, because I know he's getting ready to weigh in. Chris said something to me one time that has resonated with me. He says one of the ways that you can tell if somebody had a real experience is when they get emotional. He said, and especially when you see a big guy who's been out, we talk a lot about Bigfoot guys who've been out in the woods hunting. And you talk to this guy who's seen everything in the world he can in the woods, and he's trying to relate what he saw, and he gets emotional about it. That's a real experience. So,
I got
I
pulled
appreciate
into
you
a line,
sharing this
so
with us and everyone else.
I got pulled into a line. So,
Chris is making popcorn.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I debated on whether to even do this tonight to tell my story because they, they wait on me all day and all night. But yeah, um, I'm really glad you guys came in because uh, when you see something like that, like I believe in all this stuff. Um, I've had paranormal, seen anything. Alan left us.
I'm still here.
Okay. Um, you know, when I had my paranormal encounters at the infirmary, I didn't feel fear. But last night, for the first time in a long time, I felt fear. Um, my heart was racing. My heart felt like it was pounding on my chest, and that's not me. I'm the guy that is cool under pressure, and you know, you know, reacts afterwards. But this was like an immediate fear that I've never felt before.
Well, I mean, you reacted just like anybody else would, and don't down yourself for being afraid, because anybody who says that they wouldn't be afraid in that situation is selling you something. You did exactly what any other human would do when faced with something you have no idea what the heck that is. And but I believe that you saw what you saw. I have no idea what it is. I think I think we're in the ballpark when we say it was either a rake or a spirit. When you said it was coming up out of the ground, but I think it was it's something. I don't think I don't think it's explainable. But the fact that it was tangible enough to touch your vehicle is very interesting.
Yeah.
But don't ever get on yourself because you got afraid, dude. That is a natural human response, my friend. And you know, even I know guys who were in combat and they talk about how scared they were, but they were doing what they had to do. And you did what you had to do at the time, which was one, avoid it, two, memorize as much information as you can, and then got it down on paper. And I consider it an honor that you wanted to talk to us. That's pretty that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know, man. It's when you sent pictures of how it uh, uh, swapped at your car, and there was evidence of that. That just that solidified everything for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I questioned myself even after talking to you guys. It was like, did I really see that? But then when I went out and looked at the car, it's like it happened. There's no way around it.
Yep.
So
Well,
Well.
if I can say, I in my when I was a young man, I got myself into some hanky situations being an investigator. I had people pull knives on me, people pull guns on me, people, you know, do some crazy stuff to try to hurt me. But honestly, in those moments, like you say, you kind of get used to them. You're still shaken, but the most I've ever been shaken are with my paranormal encounters because it's beyond what we know. So it's even though we're open to those ideas, again, there was one night that I was literally, it was 3 o'clock or so in the morning. I don't know, it's middle of the night. And I was standing in my room shaking because of a paranormal encounter and I had. And I'd never shaken like that before in any other situation. So it's just a natural human response to get totally freaked out when you're faced with something that is paranormal.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, like I said, I appreciate you guys taking my call last night. Basically, that's what happened last night. Um, I was very nervous telling that story. Probably all saw that. And that group of guys that was just in the box with me, they have been very, very supporting in the last 24 hours.